If you're anything like me, you spend way too much time online looking at guitars you'll never be able to afford. And if you live in North America like I do, one of the high-end brands you've probably never tried is Vigier. They aren't carried in guitar centers or even on most big online retailers like Sweetwater or Musician's Friends. They also don't have many celebrity artists. But judging by the fact that their only living guitarist with a signature model is Ron Bumblefatal, and their only other signature model is of the late great Sean Lane, it should be no shock that this brand may have created the easiest playing guitar of all time. And luckily, I have one here today. By the way, while we're on this topic, comment below what's your dream guitar and how you're going to be able to afford it. Are you going to get some type of sponsorship by them eventually? Are you going to rob a bank? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to tell you everything about this guitar, the $3,000 US VGA Excalibur Indus. Now you're probably wondering why I picked this particular model, and truth be told, it's the only one I could actually afford. The Excalibur Indus is the least expensive VGA guitar, and I was lucky enough to find one that was used but basically brand new. And I still couldn't afford it. But at the time, I thought we all might be dying because of a pandemic, so I bought it anyway. Anyway, in addition to telling you everything about this guitar, I'm also going to explain some about VGA's other models that I tried, and I'm going to let you know if the price is justified. But here's a preview of my philosophy about expensive guitars. I've never heard or seen anyone mention a quality control issue with VGA. But there are many other large companies that sell guitars for this price and much, much higher that have had quality control issues. Hell, some have had entire quality control scandals. I'll leave it there for now. Let's get to the review. Now, you'll notice throughout this review that VGA has added many of their own special features to what from afar may seem like a standard Super Strat style guitar. And this is a perfect time to like the video because, as you can tell, we are about to get into a lot of uninterrupted detail. Starting with the headstock, we have a unique design and 6 inline shallower oversized locking tuners. The tuners work as they should, and the headstock looks cool enough in my opinion to attract attention without attracting haters. The string trees are the first area where we see VGA's insane attention to detail. It's called the Flex Retainer String Retention System. If you Google this term, you'll mostly find pictures of dental work, but the system is pretty cool. If you look closely, you'll see that the string trees are actually ball ends from a guitar string that go through the headstock and lock into place on the back. I'm not sure if these are special ball ends, but you can loosen the locking mechanism with an Allen wrench to remove and replace them if need be. As we move from the headstock down, you'll notice more special designs. First is the string dampener, which is a removable piece of felt-like material that reduces noise behind the nut. I do think it looks better than our standard tools for the job, and this is the first time I've ever seen it built into a guitar. We then move to the combination of a Teflon nut and segmented stainless steel 0 frets. Teflon is a non-stick material commonly used on kitchen pans, and it's also used at other places where we need a low friction surface. This should stop the strings from binding in the nut, which can be an area of tuning instability on other guitars. 0 frets are actually an old design that likely predates the nut found on today's guitars. It's a fret placed at the start of the guitar scale length, or the 0 point, hence the name. Since this VGA guitar has a 25.6 inch scale length, from the 0 fret all the way to the bridge saddle should measure 25.6 inches. So what's the point of the combination of a 0 fret and this type of nut? Well, the nut on a standard guitar without a 0 fret has 2 functions. Number 1, to keep the string properly spaced, and number 2, to set the action or string height at the first fret. Now the second function of setting the string height requires a nut to be precisely cut. If the nut is cut too low, the strings will buzz. If it's cut too high, you'll never achieve low action. The combination of a 0 fret and a nut separates these 2 functions. The string passes through the nut, which establishes the string spacing, and then sits on top of the 0 fret, which sets the proper height. Although a 0 fret is not required to achieve low action, it does make the process easier and likely more consistent from a manufacturing standpoint. Moreover, you know for a fact that the action can't be any lower since the string is literally laying on the fret. As stated earlier, the 0 fret is also segmented. Now, stainless steel frets should never wear with standard use, which is why they became so popular over the last 20 years or so. But the 0 fret will experience far more string contact than a standard fret because the string is always resting on it, and is at one of the greatest points of string tension on the instrument. I still don't think a stainless steel 0 fret will wear out anytime soon, but segmenting the fret allows for each section to be individually changed if they do wear out eventually. Each segment can be removed fairly easily, and it would only add a couple of seconds to a standard string change. Like the 0 fret, the nut is also designed to be easily changed. It's held in place with a small nub and string tension alone instead of glue, and Vigier sells individual nuts to fit standard string spacings. On the back of each nut is a series of dots that will tell you the string gauge it's cut for. One dot is 9 to 46, 2 is 10 to 56, and so on. I learned about the importance of the right nut immediately upon purchasing this guitar. I use a custom set of strings that mixes a pack of 8s with a 46 gauge on the low E. Initially unaware of the interchangeable nut system, I installed my strings on the 10 to 52 nut that came with my guitar. This mistake caused an annoying click when bending strings. I then called every US VGA dealer and could not find anyone who stocked the nuts. So if you live in North America like I do, you're probably going to have to pay extra money to have the nuts shipped overseas. I ended up purchasing mine from Peach Guitars in the UK on a Thursday afternoon, and it arrived by Monday morning. It was nice and fast shipping. Although the nut only cost $12, I did have to pay $30 for international shipping, which brought the total to $42. Since I bought this guitar used, I'm not sure if VGA usually sells their guitars with multiple nuts included, but if they don't, they should. That takes us to the guitar neck, which, as you may know, is my #1 obsession when it comes to guitars. The reason I'm so picky with guitar necks is because I've had wrist issues and finger injuries over the years, and after 18 years of playing guitar, I've learned that I can't play thin necks. Ibanez Wizards, Kiesel Thins, Parker Flies, they all hurt my hand if I play for longer than about an hour. VGA has a system they call their 1090 neck because it's 10% carbon and 90% maple. Each piece of maple is dried for at least 3 years to ensure it's stable, and the carbon reinforcement adds additional stability. The fretboard is rosewood on this particular model, and it has black dot inlays. There's an 11.81 inch radius, and to Americans this sounds weird because it's converted from 300 millimeters. I'll link some videos made by VGA where they show how stable the neck is, but in short, this neck will not move with any temperature you will ever experience traveling anywhere on the planet. In fact, the neck is so stable it does not even have a truss rod. That may bother some people who prefer to have more control over the bow of a neck, but if you're like me and you want a neck that is straight and that is always straight and that you'll never have to adjust, this is the neck for you, and for me personally, it was the biggest selling point of this guitar. The neck shape is a D, and to my knowledge, all VGA necks have the same profile. If you're comfortable with a modern Strat or an Ibanez AZ, this neck should be comfortable for you. It's around the same thickness. Just another insight, during my morning testing of this guitar, during my morning practice, the neck is definitely thinner than what I remember. It's definitely thinner than a Parker Nightfly. It's not as thin as a Parker Fly. It's not as thin as an Ibanez Wizard, obviously. But it is, I would say, slightly thinner than an Ibanez AZ. Or maybe it's right around there. It's hard to tell. But it definitely feels thinner in the hand than an Ibanez AZ. It's definitely thinner than a Fender standard neck, for example. And I think some of that extra thinness, the contributing factor is the fact that it's a D shape instead of a C shape. When you have a C-shaped neck, since the C is such a rounded shape, even if it's kind of thin, it feels a little bit thicker because it's so round. But when you have that D shape, right? When you have the D shape, the roundness is more gentle, and at least to me, it makes it feel thinner in the hand. So that's the small insight there. If you like a neck that is slightly thinner than standard and has a D shape instead of a C shape, you should like this neck. And even myself, as someone who doesn't like super thin necks, this neck is still comfortable for me. The edges are also rolled very, very nicely. It's very, very comfortable to just hold like this. One more thing, if you're someone who plays a lot with your thumb over the neck, for example, when I play this chord, this diminished chord, I like to have my thumb over the mute a little bit. Because of how round the edges are on the top, And on the bottom, this is one of the most comfortable guitars I've ever played in terms of wrapping your thumb around style. So if you're someone who does like the, you know, all of this stuff with the thumb around, I don't do that very often, but even like this type of chord, it's very, very comfortable for that in particular. I did, of course, put this guitar through my normal test of sit down and play for at least 5 hours and see if you get pain, and it passed the test. I played this guitar for 5 hours straight. I've put over 100 hours on this particular neck, and I'd never had any pain or discomfort. The finish is a very nice and smooth matte that doesn't ever get sticky. There are 24 medium stainless steel frets with absolute immaculate fretwork. And I have a feeling that as I show these frets, there will be people who roll their eyes at how basic they look. Lately, the YouTube guitar world has been fixated on inexpensive guitars with stainless steel frets with perfectly rounded ball ends on the fret ends, right? This trend has led some to interchange the idea with great fret ends with great fret work. They're not the same thing. Although the smoothness of fret ends is part of the quality of a fret job, it's just one part of the equation. For example, if you have perfect fret ends, but the frets have not been set well or leveled properly, you'll never achieve consistency across the neck or stability and longevity through the seasons. I think less expensive guitars can, of course, have great fretwork. I'm not knocking them. I haven't tried all of them. But in order to assess how good fretwork is, we need to look at more than just the ends. Okay, rant over. So, okay, the VGA doesn't have perfectly rounded, sculpted, ball end fret ends. But honestly, that doesn't really matter. They're perfectly smooth on both sides. They're perfectly leveled, and I personally have never played a guitar with a better fret job, period, at all, ever. Also, when combined with the zero fret and Teflon nut, I can almost guarantee that no one would actually want their action as low as it can get on this guitar. Listen, I've already told you, I'm a wimp, I like to play eights, I have wrist issues, and even I had to raise the action above the lowest point. It's just too easy to play. Okay, so I'm literally in the middle of my morning practice. It's 6:54 in the morning, and you know, I don't have my nice microphone set up. This lighting is not perfect. I'm literally in the middle of practice. But I wanted to take this moment to show you how amazing the fretwork is on this guitar. Okay, so right now, just to test, just to make the video you're going to be watching right now, I set the action as low as it could possibly go. All right, I would never play it like this because the action is so low, it feels crazy. But it's as low as it can go, okay? And when it comes to having super low action, there's two things that are very difficult. The first thing is making sure that every note on every string up and down the fretboard comes out perfectly clear without buzz, right? So right, you can do that. You should do that on every string if you have your action very low. You want to test how good the fretwork is, okay? So I already did that. I won't bore you. Every note is perfectly ringing out on the lowest action setting. Fine. But the second hardest thing is to be able to do super, super high bends with that low action and not have the note choke out, okay? That's even harder than the first test. So the question is, can we actually do that? Spoiler alert, I was doing it before I turned on the camera. That's why I turned the camera on, but check this out. Pick any string, pick any fret, doesn't even matter. Absolutely mind-blowing. It's crazy. I hope I can somehow convey with my camera angles how low this action actually can go. It's absolutely insane. To my knowledge, all VGA necks are bolt-ons, which is probably because of their intricate neck drying system. The Excalibur features a very traditional 4-screw bolt-on design. Now, as you may know, I've always been obsessed with Parker guitars, and although I don't play flies, the neck to body transition on a Parker fly is simply undefeated. Kiesel comes close. Those are really sexy too, but nothing is as sexy as a fly's neck joint. And today, even most bolt-on guitars have some type of sculpting on the neck, and we find that at just about every price point in the guitar world. But to my knowledge, every double cut style VJ guitar has the same exact square neck joint. I'll be 100% honest with you. I actually wanted to be annoyed at this neck joint because I wanted a reason to not have to lust over VGA guitars. But if I'm being 100% honest, I never notice it when I'm playing. In fact, I can reach the 21st fret before I even come in contact with the heel, and if I place my thumb at the heel, I can easily reach 24 and above. I don't go up into the 23, 24 fret range very often, so you might have to consult an actual shredder if you want to know how easy it is to get up there. But like I said, for me, it's effortless, it's perfectly functional. I can't really complain. That being said, for this price point, it would be nice to see a prettier neck joint. So just to explain what this heel actually feels like, okay? I have my thumb right here on the guitar. It's on the 12th, 13th, 14th, it's on the 15th fret. And at this point, if I were blindfolded, I wouldn't know that the heel is coming soon. And from here, I can reach all the way up here, right? There's only 3 frets left, so, and I can reach it. If I were to stretch, I could reach 24 easily. If I were to put my thumb right in the heel joint, now my pinky can reach beyond the 24th fret, and easily my third finger can reach 24 very easily. And even if I bring my hand back slightly to where I'm not touching the heel joint, I can still reach 24 very easily. So it might not look pretty, but it works just fine if I'm being honest. If you look at the body, it's clearly inspired by traditional double cut guitars. And from an artistic standpoint, this might be my favorite body headstock combination. It's definitely unique, but it's still fairly traditional, and it's not so unique that it attracts haters online. In my opinion, this represents yet another win for French high fashion. This body is made from alder and it has some comfort features including a belly cut and a really substantial arm contour, which we will talk about more in a second. The body is finished in matte and it's surprisingly smooth and nice to just rub. The pickguard has the same matte finish, which just feels nice to rub. I should also mention that just like you have to pay extra money for a VGA nut, if for some reason you ever need a replacement VGA pickguard, you will have to contact them directly and you will pay a premium and you cannot get it anywhere else. That's just something you have to get used to if you're going to buy high-end products, I suppose. You know, if you buy a Lamborghini and you need a replacement side window, you can't just go to the scrapyard and find one. You have to contact a special Lamborghini dealer. Okay, we're on to the electronics. As you can see, humbucker configuration, master volume, master tone, 5-way switch, top position, neck split in single coil mode, 2 pickups together, bridge and single coil mode, and bridge and humbucker mode. The pickups are DiMarzio PAF Classics, and they are certainly not my preference. If you want to know what my preferred pickups are, I'll post a video right here. You can watch that after you finish this one. But like I said, these PAF Classics aren't for me, but I can understand why someone might really enjoy them. They're very bright and they stay fairly clear even under high gain. And in the clean settings, they have just a lot of brightness and chime. I tend to prefer, round bass heavy tones as opposed to bright chimey tones. And I'm struggling to get my preferred tone out of these pickups. Here are some tone samples. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people like this DiMarzio set, so again, I'm not knocking it, but I would personally change these pickups if I was going to keep the guitar, but wait. The bridge is a 2-point tremolo that pivots on needle bearings instead of a knife edge. And if you purchase the Floyd Rose equipped VGA, that too has needle bearings instead of a knife edge, so they have their special VGA Floyd Rose. This design should last a very long time since needle bearings won't wear out like a knife edge will. All of the saddles are also very, very smooth. There's no sharp edges, and they just sit very well on the guitar. Your hand feels really nice when it's pressed against it. The bridge, of course, moves very smoothly, and you can adjust how tight you would like the arm to be. I like to keep my arm at the tightest point so that it stays in place when I'm playing. And one thing you should know about this model is that the wood behind the bridge isn't routed. So you can pull up a little bit if you set the guitar a specific way, but you're not going to get a lot of upward pull, although you can go down fairly nicely. And if you want to get more upward pull on the bridge, you're going to have to make the bridge itself not parallel to the body. So clearly this particular guitar, this one was not made for the most extreme antics. If you want to do crazy trem stuff, you should probably get the Floyd Rose Excalibur. Nonetheless, here's a clip of how I like to use this particular bridge. So as you heard, the bridge is definitely good. I can play all of my standard ideas with it. That being said, if it were me, I would want one with a bit more pull-up ability, so maybe I'd get the Floyd. Again, it's not designed to act like a Floyd, but even though it's not, we should probably push it to its limits and see just how good the tuning stability is on this bridge. input jack, as you can see here. It's called a Nutrix locking jack, which I've never seen on any other guitar. When you plug a 1/4-inch cable into it, it locks it into place, and it can only be removed when you press the red button, and even then it's still in there pretty firmly. In fact, when I first got this guitar, I was afraid I was breaking it when I was pulling the 1/4-inch cable out, because it's very, very snug and very secure. Finally, the strap pins are also special. They are brass casings that insert deep into the body and lock the strap button into place. I haven't used these for very long, but perhaps the brass casings that insert deep into the body and lock the strap button in place will hold up better than my other straps did. My Indus came with a very, very nice Italian case, and I believe yours will as well. Now, you may not believe this, but I'm selling this guitar for exactly one reason, and that is the forearm bevel. You may love a great, extreme, smooth forearm bevel, but let me explain why I just can't do this. I'm about 6 feet tall, but I have a wingspan of someone who is about 6'6" or 6'7". So number one, finding sleeves that are long enough is a pain, which is why you always see me in short sleeve shirts and tanks on the channel. But in addition to the fashion thing, I also need to sit with my forearm propped up on the back of a guitar so that my arm can fall nicely in place over the strings. And having my arm propped up here, it gives me the ability to navigate the guitar comfortably and get different tones from different places as I pick. When I have a guitar like this one with an extreme forearm contour, when I try to sit and play, my arm constantly slides off. The only way for me to rectify this issue is for me to press my arm into the guitar as I play. And if you sit here and do this for longer than about 5 minutes, you're going to start to get stiffness and pain in your shoulder. It's certainly not the healthiest way to sit and play a guitar. Again, if you have my annoying arms, if you're as picky as I am, and if you don't play standing up, or if you don't play like this. If you play like this actually is amazing. But for my long arms, playing in this fashion, and my idiosyncrasies, the forearm bezel is unfortunately a deal breaker. I don't blame Vigier for designing a forearm contour like this. This seems to be a trend in many different guitar companies. I think it actually started with John Petrucci, but since then, many other companies have also found that their customers really enjoy this type of contour. So again, if you love it, that's great, get this guitar. But for me, I have to look elsewhere. So I actually tried another Vigier model. I tried the GV. I'll put pictures on screen. It's Vigier single cut guitar. It's beautiful. And it was actually my first single cut guitar that I ever owned. A few things are standout about the GV model versus the Excalibur model. Number one, the forearm contour isn't extreme, and I did find it a lot more comfortable, at least for this arm, and that was great. The back of the neck of the GV is painted the same way that the body is painted, so it feels like a traditional single cut guitar, which was also pretty cool. The neck felt a little bit thicker, but I think that might have just been because of the paint on the back. Either way, I definitely enjoyed that neck. You'll also notice that the GV models have more sculpted heel joints than the Excalibur series. And finally, and this is my favorite part, the GV has a composite fingerboard which felt a lot like the glassy, beautiful, slippery, smooth fingerboard I am more accustomed to. So what happened to the GV? Well, it was a very, very expensive guitar, and I only impulse bought it because I thought the world was ending soon, and the world didn't end, and I had to pay for things like the camera you're watching right now. Also, I prefer double cut models of guitars in general, and so I kind of thought I'll sell the GV and I'll sell the Excalibur, and then maybe I'll get an Excalibur Special. So the Excalibur Special, as you can see, it's a double cut guitar, but it doesn't have the extreme forearm contour, which is probably because they use the nice top woods, and they probably don't want to cut into them, why would you? And of course, those nicer woods have a higher price tag, and so if I have any people on the channel who really enjoy my content and they want to see me review one of those guitars, you can certainly send it this way. I will take very nice care of it. Okay, I think I just created the perfect VGA guitar and they don't currently make it. So if anyone from VGA ever watches this video, you should absolutely consider making this guitar because some guy in his basement said you should. So we start with the Sean Lane Signature model. Why? Because the Sean Lane Signature model has a perfectly flat fretboard and it has a shorter scale length, a very short scale length. Now, everyone who's ever played the Sean Lane Signature model always raves about the fact that because of the flat fretboard and because of the short scale length, it's the easiest playing guitar ever, even easier than this model, which is the easiest model I've played of any guitar ever. So if we start with the Sean Lane model, we'll get the short scale length and the flat fretboard. However, the Sean Lane model has this same body with the forearm contour that I personally don't like. So we go to the Excalibur Special model, which has the beautiful flame tops, and it doesn't have the extreme forearm contour. We take that body, we use that body with the Sean Lane Signature model neck. The last thing we do, remember I said that I had a GV model, which is the single cut VGA guitars. The best thing about that guitar, in my opinion, was that beautiful, deep, black, glassy, smooth fretboard. And to my knowledge, only the GV models have that beautiful composite fretboard. So we take the composite fretboard from the GV model, we put it on the Sean Lane Signature model neck, and keep the Sean Lane Signature model scale length, and then we put that whole thing on the Excalibur Special body. We keep this same bridge, perhaps gold hardware. That is, for sure, that's going to be the best VGA guitar ever. So again, VGA, please make that guitar. I won't be able to afford it, but please make it. All right, so we're on to the conclusion of this video and where I reveal my thoughts about the price of this guitar and if it's worth it. Here's the thing. If you're someone who loves a traditional guitar, okay, you love a Strat, you love a Les Paul, you love a 335, you love a Tele, you're fine with how those guitars play, you never use very low action, then no, there's no point in buying this guitar, honestly, right? Because what this guitar excels at is something that you personally don't need. So go ahead, save up your money, buy a $15,000 vintage Strat if you want, or a $20,000 vintage Les Paul, and you'll be super happy, and that's amazing for you. If you are a shredder and you love low action, then you have to buy this guitar, period. Don't even buy a Parker guitar, okay? This is my favorite guitar. If you are a shredder who wants the best action ever, buy this guitar instead. Just being honest, okay? Here is another scenario though where you might consider this guitar, because you have to keep in mind this. I'm not a crazy shredder. I don't demand super low action. So why would someone like me, or maybe someone like you, decide that you might want to buy this guitar? Let's say you're a hobby guitar player, you have a wife and kids, you have a day job, and you don't get 3-4 hours a day to practice like a professional musician might get to, okay? If that's the case, I think this guitar is an amazing investment. And why is that? Well, it's the same reason why I got this guitar. I have time to practice every day, but I try to fit as much useful practice into as small of a time period as possible. So if I have 2 hours to practice, I make sure those are focused 2 hours, and I don't want to spend time adjusting truss rods. I don't want to have to spend time worrying about if it's going to stay in tune that day. I don't want to have to spend time dealing with any issues that can come with a guitar. So if you get this guitar, you know for a fact, if you have 10 minutes while your kids are at school before you go to pick them up, you have 10 minutes to spare. You grab this guitar, it will be in tune, and it will play exactly like how you remembered it the last time you played it. To me, that alone makes this well worth the money. Now, as I previously stated, I'm not keeping this guitar, I'm selling this guitar because of the forearm contour, but that has nothing to do with the quality or the greatness of this guitar. It's an amazing guitar. However, you do know my favorite guitar, at least right now, is the Parker Knife Line. Now, I can be objective about how good a guitar is, even if it's not my preference. So the question is, if we're talking solely about quality and comfort and value for money, which is the better guitar, the Parker Knifefly or the Vigier? Modern versus old modern. Luckily for you, I have a video on that coming up soon. By the way, I'm Andre Flood, and I'll talk to you soon.